What if the person you believe you are, the one thinking your thoughts, feeling your emotions, worrying about tomorrow, is not actually who you are at all? What if there is something deeper, something silent, something watching from behind your eyes that has never been hurt, never been broken, never been afraid? For a moment, stop everything you're doing and notice this. Thoughts are appearing. Sensations are moving. The world is unfolding in front of you, but something is quietly aware of it all. That awareness is not speaking. It is not trying. It is simply present. And here is the unsettling truth most people never realize. You have spent your entire life identified with the activity happening inside your mind, while completely overlooking the one who has been watching it all along. You are not your fear. You are not your memories. You are not the voice narrating your life inside your head. You are the observer of all of it. And this single misunderstanding, confusing the observer with what is being observed, may be the hidden root of anxiety, emotional suffering, identity struggle, and the feeling that life is somehow happening to you instead of through you. Ancient mystics spoke of this awareness as pure consciousness. Modern neuroscience hints at it as the witnessing self. Quantum physics points to it through the observer effect, suggesting that observation itself is woven into the fabric of reality. Yet in daily life, almost no one is taught how to recognize this subtle presence within themselves. We grow up believing we are the story, the trauma, the personality, the past, never realizing we are the space in which all of that appears. And the cost of that mistaken identity is immense. Endless mental noise, emotional reactivity, the constant search for validation, and the quiet fear that something is fundamentally wrong with us. But what if nothing is wrong at all? What if the one behind your eyes has been whole, untouched, and free this entire time, just hidden behind the habit of identification? In this episode of Beyond Reality, we are going to explore the observer in a way that goes beyond philosophy and beyond surface-level spirituality. We will connect quantum insight with inner experience, science with direct awareness, and show you why realizing who the true observer is doesn't just change how you think. It changes how you suffer, how you heal, how you relate, and how you experience reality itself. Because once you see the one who is watching, everything you thought you were begins to shift. You are not the voice in your head, you are the one who hears it. This single realization can quietly dismantle a lifetime of unconscious identification with thought. From the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep, a stream of inner commentary narrates your life. Judging, planning, remembering, worrying, imagining. Most people assume this voice is who they are. But if you pause for just a second and listen closely, something extraordinary reveals itself. Thoughts come and go, yet the one who perceives them does not change. A thought about the past appears, then fades. A worry about the future arises, then dissolves. An emotion flares, then softens. But the awareness that notices these shifts remains steady, silent, and unchanged. This is the observer. And the mind, with all its noise and movement, is only what is being observed. If the mind were truly you, it could not be witnessed. A knife cannot cut itself. Fire cannot burn itself. The eye cannot see itself without a mirror. In the same way, the mind cannot observe itself unless there is something beyond it doing the observing. That something is not a thought, not a belief, not a memory, not a personality. It is pure awareness itself. This awareness is not spiritual in the mystical or supernatural sense. It is simpler and more fundamental than any concept of the soul. It is the basic fact of being aware. You don't need to believe in it. You are already experiencing it right now. As you read these words, thoughts may agree or disagree, analyze or interpret, but something prior to all of that is simply watching. That is the observer. And here is where true freedom begins to emerge. The mind is reactive by nature. It lives in time, constantly pulling you into the past through memory or projecting you into the future through fear and desire. When you believe you are the mind, you become trapped in its movements. You suffer every thought as if it were a fact, every emotion as if it were your identity. But when you recognize yourself as the observer, a subtle but profound shift occurs. You no longer drown in thought, you watch it. You no longer become consumed by emotion, you feel it through the space of awareness. This does not make you numb or detached from life. In fact, it makes you more intimate with life. You experience directly. Clarity replaces confusion. Presence replaces compulsion. The observer does not fight the mind, silence the mind, or control the mind. It simply sees. And in that seeing, the mind naturally begins to lose its dominance, because what is seen clearly can no longer unconsciously control you. This is why so much human suffering is not caused by the events of life itself, but by the unseen identification with the inner narrative about those events. Two people can experience the same situation. One collapses under it, the other moves through it with calm. The difference is not strength, intelligence, or willpower. The difference is where awareness is located, trapped inside the mind or resting as the observer. You do not need to destroy the mind to be free. You only need to stop mistaking it for who you are. The mind is a tool, an instrument for survival, communication, problem solving. It is brilliant at what it does, but it was never meant to be your identity. When it becomes your identity, fear becomes personal. Insecurity becomes who you are, and every passing mood defines you. When the observer becomes primary, the mind returns to its proper place, useful, but no longer in command. This is not a belief system. It is a direct, experiential truth that can be verified in this very moment. Right now, notice the thought that just passed through your awareness. It is already gone, but the awareness that noticed it is still here. Unchanged, silent, watching. That is who you truly are. The body is not who you are, it is what you experience. Sensations arise within it every moment. Warmth and cold, tension and release, pain and pleasure, hunger and satisfaction, fatigue and vitality. These sensations feel intimate, even personal, and because they are so close, most people unconsciously assume this body is me. But if you look more carefully, you will discover a deeper truth. The body is something you are aware of, not the one who is aware. You notice the ache in your shoulders, the rhythm of your breath, the beat of your heart, the softness of relaxation, or the sharpness of pain. But the one who notices is not identical to what is noticed. Just as you observe thoughts in the mind, you also observe sensations in the body. The body appears within awareness as a field of constantly changing experience. Sensations come and go. Pain flares and fades. Energy rises and falls. Cells are replaced. The form itself is in continuous transformation. Yet the awareness in which all of this appears remains stable. This shows that the body is an instrument, an interface through which life is experienced, not the self that experiences it. When you deeply recognize this, your relationship with the body begins to change. Most suffering arises not simply from physical sensation, but from psychological identification with it. When discomfort appears and the mind says, "Something is wrong with me," or "I am broken," the sensation becomes amplified by fear and resistance. But when awareness simply observes sensation without turning it into identity, pain remains sensation, no longer a story of who you are. This does not deny the reality of physical experience. Pain is real, pleasure is real, fatigue is real, but the self that you truly are is not made of these passing states. It is the silent space in which they arise. From this perspective, the body becomes a messenger rather than a definition. It speaks through sensation, but it does not define your essence. You may feel exhausted today and energetic tomorrow, tense one moment and relaxed the next, ill in one season and healthy in another. If your identity were truly the body, then you would be fundamentally different each time these states changed. Yet something constant remains through all of it, the knower of these changes. That constancy is awareness. This realization brings a quiet form of freedom. You no longer feel trapped inside the body as if you were its prisoner. You live through it, not as it. When the body hurts, you care for it without collapsing into helplessness. When pleasure arises, you enjoy it without needing to possess it. When aging appears, you witness it without losing your sense of being. The body becomes a dynamic instrument for experience rather than a fixed identity to defend. This shift also transforms how you relate to fear of death. If you believe you are the body, then every threat to the body becomes a threat to your existence. But when you recognize that the body is experienced within awareness, fear begins to loosen its grip. Awareness watches the life of the body unfold, just as it watches thoughts and emotions arise and dissolve. This does not make you careless or disconnected from life. On the contrary, it makes you more present, more respectful of the instrument you inhabit. You care for the body not out of fear of losing yourself, but out of clarity that it is the vessel through which life expresses itself in this moment. Even breath reveals this truth. You feel the breath enter and leave. You notice its depth, its speed, its rhythm. But you are not the breath. You are the awareness noticing it. And yet, through breath, awareness and body meet. The instrument and the observer move in quiet cooperation. To live with this understanding is not to reject the body, but to place it in its rightful context. You honor it, listen to it, care for it, and use it as the bridge through which consciousness touches the physical world. But you no longer mistake the bridge for the one who crosses it. Emotions feel intensely personal, as if they define who you are in each moment. When fear rises, you say, "I am afraid." When sadness appears, you say, "I am sad." When anger flares, it feels like you are angry. And when joy comes, it feels as if you have become joy itself. But a deeper observation reveals something profoundly different. Emotions, like thoughts and bodily sensations, arise within awareness and pass away. They are not your identity. They are objects of awareness, not the one who is aware. If you pause and simply notice your emotional state right now, you will see this directly. The emotion has a particular energy, a texture, a movement inside you. It shifts in intensity. It changes shape. Sometimes it fades quickly. Sometimes it lingers. Yet there is always something present that remains steady while all of this movement occurs. That steady presence is the observer. When you recognize yourself as the witness of emotion rather than the emotion itself, your relationship with feeling transforms at its root. You no longer drown inside your inner weather. You learn to watch the storm pass through. Fear may still arise, but it no longer has absolute authority over your sense of self. Sadness may still be felt, but it no longer feels like the total truth of who you are. Anger may still surge, but it no longer fully possesses you. And joy becomes freer as well, no longer something you cling to out of fear of losing yourself when it fades. This shift does not suppress emotion or deny its reality. On the contrary, it allows emotion to be felt more fully, more honestly, because you are no longer fighting it or using it to define yourself. Most emotional suffering is not caused by the raw feeling itself, but by the unconscious belief that this feeling is me. When fear arises and identity collapses into it, the mind says, "This is who I am now," afraid, unsafe, powerless. When sadness arises and identity fuses with it, the mind says, "This is my life now," empty, heavy, hopeless. The feeling becomes permanent in the imagination, even though in direct experience, it is always temporary. But when awareness stands back as the witness, something subtle yet powerful happens. You feel the emotion completely, but you are no longer reduced to it. You allow the wave to move through without becoming the ocean itself. And because you are no longer resisting, fighting, or clinging, the wave naturally completes its cycle. This is why witnessing dissolves emotional suffering at its root. Not by force, but by clarity. The emotion is allowed to exist without being turned into a story of self. The nervous system begins to learn that feeling is not the same as danger. You discover that you can experience intense emotion without losing yourself. This is the doorway to emotional freedom. You are no longer controlled by what you feel, because you are no longer confusing what you feel with who you are. You become the sky instead of the storm. The clouds may be dark or bright, violent or gentle, but the sky that holds them is untouched by their passing. In daily life, this changes everything. A criticism may trigger a surge of shame, but instead of collapsing into it, you notice it. A memory may awaken grief, but instead of being consumed, you witness it. A relationship may stir deep longing or jealousy, but instead of acting compulsively from it, you observe it. This space of observation does not make you cold or indifferent. It makes you conscious. You still feel deeply, but you no longer suffer blindly. And in this conscious feeling, emotional patterns that once ruled you begin to lose their grip. They no longer define your identity. They become experiences moving through awareness rather than prisons you live inside. The more familiar you become with this witnessing presence, the more you realize that the observer has been here through every emotion you have ever felt. Every grief, every rage, every ecstasy, every heartbreak, something timeless was quietly watching it all. That timeless presence is who you truly are. Emotions are waves. You are the shore that remains. Psychological suffering does not come primarily from what happens to you, but from how completely you become identified with the inner reactions to what happens. Pain is part of life. Loss, disappointment, fear, physical discomfort, and emotional hurt are unavoidable aspects of the human experience. But suffering is something different. Suffering is what arises when pain is fused with identity, when a passing thought or emotion is mistaken for the truth of who you are. When you believe every thought as your thought, every emotion as your emotion, every story as your reality, suffering multiplies. The mind begins to build a personal narrative around experience. This shouldn't be happening to me. Something is wrong with me. I will never be okay again. These thoughts feel real, urgent, and convincing because the awareness observing them has collapsed into them. You are no longer witnessing the storm. You are inside the storm, believing that it is the whole sky. But when awareness returns to the position of the observer, a subtle yet radical shift takes place. The same thoughts may still appear. The same emotions may still move through you. The same physical or emotional pain may still be present. Yet the sense of being completely trapped by them begins to loosen. You realize, not just intellectually but directly, that these inner movements are happening within awareness, not to the core of who you are. Pain may remain, but suffering weakens or even dissolves. Why? Because suffering depends on identification. Without identification, pain is just sensation and movement, intense, uncomfortable at times, but no longer a personal story of me being broken. The observer does not deny pain. It does not suppress emotion. It does not pretend that everything is fine. Instead, it sees clearly. And clear seeing has an extraordinary power. What is seen without resistance is no longer amplified by fear, judgment, or mental struggle. Much of the suffering people carry is not the direct experience of emotion, but the resistance to it. Fear of fear, sadness about sadness, anger at anger. The mind fights what is already present, and in doing so, locks it in place. But when awareness steps back into the role of the observer, resistance softens. The emotion is allowed to move as pure energy through the body and psyche, rather than being crystallized into identity. You begin to notice that even intense emotional states have a life cycle. They rise, peak, and fall. They are dynamic, not permanent. It is only the belief, "this is who I am," that freezes them into long-term suffering. The observer reveals a deeper truth. You are the space in which every inner weather pattern appears and disappears. This is why awareness itself is inherently free. It can experience pain, but it cannot suffer in the same way a contracted identity does. Suffering requires a center that feels attacked, threatened, diminished, or broken. When you rest as the observer, that contracted center begins to dissolve. You still feel, but you no longer feel against life. You feel with life. This shift can be profoundly relieving for people who have struggled with anxiety, depression, trauma, or chronic emotional turmoil. It does not offer a quick fix or a spiritual bypass. It does not promise the immediate disappearance of pain. What it offers is something deeper and more honest, a way to remain present with pain without being destroyed by it. From this space of observation, the nervous system begins to regulate naturally. The mind no longer interprets every sensation as a personal threat. The body no longer stays locked in fight or flight mode. Over time, emotional patterns that once felt permanent begin to lose their grip. Not because they were forced away, but because they were finally seen without identification. This is the paradox of awareness. By not trying to fix yourself, you begin to heal. By not trying to escape pain, suffering loosens. By no longer defining yourself to your wounds, the wounds are allowed to complete their movement and release. Observer awareness does not make you invulnerable to life. It makes you intimate with life without being imprisoned by it. And in that intimacy, a quiet freedom emerges that no outer circumstance can take away. Breath is the most immediate and intimate bridge between the world of form and the space of pure awareness. It is always happening now, always available, always neutral, and yet it is deeply connected to every layer of your being: body, mind, emotions, and the observer itself. You do not have to believe in breath. You do not have to create it. You do not have to remember to turn it on. It is already moving through you, silently linking the visible and the invisible. This is why conscious breathing is so powerful. It anchors awareness in the present moment, not by force, but by natural alignment. When attention rests on the breath, it is gently pulled out of compulsive thinking and into direct experience. The mind lives in the past and the future. The breath lives only in now. Each inhale arises only now. Each exhale dissolves only now. And when awareness follows the breath into this immediacy, something profound happens. You stop being absorbed in thought and return to observe it. You do not need to silence the mind. You do not need to fight distraction. The breath does the work for you by drawing awareness out of abstraction and back into living reality. In that shift, unconscious identification begins to loosen. You realize you are not the flood of thoughts about the breath. You are the awareness noticing the breath itself. This is how breath stabilizes the observer. The nervous system responds immediately to this shift. Shallow, unconscious breathing is closely linked to stress, fear, and hypervigilance. When awareness reconnects with slow, deep, conscious breathing, the body receives a direct signal of safety. The vagus nerve activates, the heart rate steadies, muscle tension softens. The constant background alarm that many people live with begins to quiet. With the feeling of air entering the lungs, the rise of the chest, the fall of the abdomen, you are no longer living inside the story about life. You are living inside life itself. With the feeling of air entering the lungs, the rise of the chest, the fall of the abdomen, you are no longer living inside the story about life. You are living inside life itself. And in this direct presence, the observer becomes obvious without effort. You do not have to search for awareness in meditation. When you follow the breath without trying to control it, awareness naturally reveals itself as the one watching. This is why breath is not just a calming tool. It is a doorway into your true nature. Through conscious breathing, you begin to see how identification dissolves on its own. A thought may still arise, fear, worry, memory, but instead of being pulled into it, your attention rests with the breath. The thought becomes an object in awareness rather than a command you must follow. Emotion may still surge, but as you stay with the rhythm of breathing, you feel the emotion as energy moving through the body, rather than as an identity you must become. Over time, this practice retrains the entire system. The mind learns that it does not have to dominate. The body learns that it does not have to stay tense. The observer becomes the reference point instead of fear, habit, or compulsive thought. Breath is unique in this role because it belongs to both worlds. It is automatic, yet it can be conscious. It is physical, yet it responds instantly to emotional and mental states. It is the meeting point where awareness and matter touch. When you breathe unconsciously, life happens to you. When you breathe consciously, you participate fully in life without being consumed by it. This is why ancient contemplative traditions place such profound emphasis on breath, not as a technique, but as a portal. The breath teaches you how to remain in the body without being trapped by it, how to feel without drowning in emotion, how to think without being ruled by thought. Through the breath, observing becomes embodied rather than abstract. Awareness is no longer something you conceptually understand. It becomes something you physically inhabit. And as this becomes familiar, unconscious identification weakens naturally. You no longer have to constantly remind yourself that you are the observer. You begin to live from that place. In a world of constant stimulation, tension, and mental noise, the breath remains the simplest and most reliable return to truth. One inhale, one exhale, and awareness is back home, watching quietly as life unfolds. From a quantum perspective, the observer is not a passive spectator standing outside of reality, watching a pre-existing world unfold. It is an active participant in the very structure of what appears. Modern physics reveals that reality is not made of solid objects, but of probabilities, fields, and relationships. Subatomic particles do not exist as fixed things with defined properties until they are observed. Before observation, they exist as waves of potential, multiple possibilities at once. Observation collapses these possibilities into a specific outcome. This does not mean a human ego is magically creating the universe with wishes. It reveals something far more profound. Consciousness and reality are not separate. Observation and manifestation are two movements of the same underlying field. From this view, the observer you experience as pure awareness is not outside the quantum field. It is an expression of it. Awareness and the field arise together, interwoven. The boundary you assume between your inner world and the outer universe begins to dissolve. The same intelligence that organizes subatomic particles is the intelligence through which you are aware right now. When you perceive, you are not looking at a detached reality. You are participating in a living process of unfoldment. Observation is not neutral at the deepest level. It carries information, coherence, and pattern. In quantum theory, the field responds not to force, but to information and relationship. Your state of awareness, your attention, emotional coherence, and inner stability functions as active information within this field. This does not mean every thought instantly creates physical events, but it does mean consciousness is woven into the dynamics of reality itself. You are a localized expression of the same field observing itself. The observer is the point where the infinite becomes personal without losing its universality. Reality is no longer a rigid structure imposed from outside. It is a fluid, responsive process in which your awareness already participates. This is why the quality of your inner state matters so deeply. Fragmented awareness engages the field through incoherence. Stable awareness engages it through coherence. The universe does not respond to surface affirmations. It responds to the deeper informational patterns of consciousness itself. This is why forced positivity fails, while quiet inner shifts reshape reality. The observer does not manipulate the quantum field. It resonates with it. And resonance, not control, shapes how potential unfolds into form. At the quantum level, everything is non-local. Information is shared instantly. Separation is a surface appearance, not a fundamental truth. Your inner state is not sealed inside your skull. It is a movement within a unified field with no true boundaries. When awareness shifts inwardly, the entire field reorganizes subtly in response. This is where ancient mysticism and quantum physics meet. The knower and the known are one. The observer and the observed cannot be fully separated. This does not inflate the ego into a cosmic creator. It humbles the personal self into recognition that it is a temporary expression of a far greater intelligence. The ego does not shape reality, but the deeper observer participates naturally in the patterning of existence. When you recognize yourself as this observer, you no longer feel like a fragment trapped in a hostile universe. You feel like a living point of awareness through which the universe experiences itself. Responsibility replaces control. Alignment replaces forcing. Participation replaces struggle. The quantum field is not out there. It is the invisible depth of the same reality in which your awareness is rooted. The false self is the identity constructed from memory, conditioning, social roles, fear, desire, and psychological habit. It is the story of me that the mind continually narrates. Who I think I am, what has happened to me, what I should be, what others think of me, what I fear losing, and what I must protect. This identity feels deeply personal and real because it has been reinforced through repetition since childhood. But when you look closely, the false self is not a solid entity. It is a collage of thoughts, memories, emotional patterns, and learned reactions. It only exists as long as it is continuously believed and reinforced. When awareness becomes dominant and identification softens, something extraordinary happens. You continue to function as a person in the world, but you are no longer confined by the psychological image of who you think you are. A deeper freedom emerges, quiet and stable. You still have a name, relationships, responsibilities, and a life path. You still have preferences, talents, and limitations. But these are no longer experienced as a rigid identity you must constantly defend. They are recognized as temporary expressions of life rather than the definition of your being. This is freedom from the false self. It does not make you blank or emotionless. It allows you to live more fully because you are no longer imprisoned by fear-based self-images. Roles lose their psychological weight. Failure no longer defines you. Success no longer inflates you. Criticism no longer devastates you. Praise no longer controls you. Because the core of who you are is no longer tied to the story of me. The false self thrives on comparison, validation, fear of rejection, and attachment to personal history. When identification weakens, these compulsions dissolve naturally. You no longer need to prove who you are or protect an image. Personal history becomes just history, not identity. The wounds of the past can still heal without imprisoning your present. This freedom is deeply practical. Without defending a self-image, honesty becomes easier. Without protecting identity, vulnerability becomes natural. Life feels lighter, more fluid, and more immediate. You respond rather than react. The mind still functions, but it no longer dominates as the center of identity. It becomes a useful tool instead of a tyrant. You still think, but you are no longer imprisoned by thought. You become simpler. You become ordinary in the most profound sense. You meet each moment directly, not through the lens of past conditioning. And in this direct meeting, fear begins to lose its grip. Life still brings uncertainty, loss, effort, and complexity. But you meet these from openness rather than from a contracted psychological center. You function fully in the world, yet inwardly you are unconfined. You are no longer trapped inside the idea of yourself as a victim, a success, a failure, or even a spiritual seeker. All identities may still arise as thoughts, but they no longer define you. This is freedom from the false self, not escape from humanity, but liberation within it. Living as the observer in daily life does not mean withdrawing from the world, retreating into isolation, or disengaging from human responsibility. True integration is the opposite of escape. It is the art of living fully in the world while remaining rooted in awareness. You still wake up with responsibilities. You still work, relate, struggle, strive, create, and rest. You still feel joy and frustration, love and disappointment. The difference is not in what you experience, but in where you experience it from. You remain connected to the silent presence that observes it all. When you wake up, the mind begins its stream of planning and worrying. As the observer, you notice this without immediately becoming it. When you work, you focus completely, yet inwardly, you remain spacious. Action flows without the burden of identity. When challenges appear, conflict, pressure, tension, you feel the stress, but you do not collapse into it. Awareness gives you choice. This is what it means to live as the observer. Not to avoid difficulty, but to meet difficulty without losing yourself inside it. In relationships, you listen more deeply because you are no longer preparing your defense while the other speaks. You feel emotion without immediately reacting from it. You love without clinging because yourself is no longer dependent on another. In creativity, expression flows without fear of judgment. You create because life moves through you, not for validation. Even in rest, awareness remains present. You can sit in silence without needing distraction. You still remember the past and plan the future, but you are no longer imprisoned by either. The present moment becomes your home base, not a place you visit only in meditation. You do not have to be perfectly present. You only have to keep returning, and each return weakens unconscious identification. Over time, the nervous system steadies. Emotional swings soften. Mental noise quiets. Not because life is easy, but because you are no longer fragmented by it. Living as the observer is where spirituality becomes a way of being human. You inhabit the world more consciously. You work with awareness. You love with awareness. You struggle with awareness. You fail with awareness. And through it all, you remain anchored in what you truly are, the presence that witnesses the entire dance without being lost in it.